Sex wasn't only pleasure in the Middle Ages. It was death walking from bed to bed. In an age without medicine as you know it, the warm body beside you could be carrying not only comfort, but sores hidden beneath cloth, fevers waiting to erupt, and whispers of divine punishment. Desire was never innocent. Each embrace might be the beginning of suffering that lingered for years, spreading silently through soldiers, servants, priests, and queens alike. Brothels stood only a street away from cathedral doors, their painted signs calling men from prayer into lust. Soldiers returned from campaign not only with scars of war, but with sores that no healer could cure, leaving entire camps weakened. Rumors spread through towns. God was punishing sin with burning flesh and rotting skin. Priests thundered from pulpits about chastity, yet whispers told of the same priests sneaking through alleys at night. The disease traveled quicker than sermons, moving from one mouth to another, carried by secrecy and denial. Today, medicine offers pills and cures, but in the medieval world, there was only mystery, blame, and prayers against the unknown creeping through bodies. Before we begin, take a moment to settle in. If you enjoy walking through history like this, subscribe to the Sleepy Medievalist and share your thoughts below. Imagine yourself not as a reader but as a villager, breathing the same smoky air, drinking from the same cup, sleeping on straw beside strangers. You are not just hearing this story, you are living inside it, every risk and every heartbeat your own. So close your eyes, let the modern world fade. Feel the cool stone of medieval walls, the flicker of torchlight, the damp air of night. Horses snort in distant stables. Bells echo faintly from the church tower. The century is dark, uncertain, and full of whispers. Together, we will walk through the outbreak of desire, living, breathing, and surviving lust's deadly shadow, as if you were truly there in the Middle Ages. You wake to the heavy scent of straw, sweat, and smoke. The straw beneath you is damp, not from rain, but from the bodies that pressed against it through the night. You shift, and a small itch rises on your thigh. At first, it feels harmless, just another irritation from flea bites. But when your hand scratches, the skin feels different. Tender. Raw. You pull back your fingers and wonder if the dark rumors are true. The room around you is alive with sound. Someone coughs, wet and deep, shaking the wooden walls. Someone else whispers a prayer, repeating the same words again and again. Beyond the door, a rooster crows, dragging dawn into the village. Light creeps through cracks in the shutters, soft and gray, barely strong enough to touch the corners of the room. Your eyes adjust, and you see the others who slept beside you. A soldier sprawls with his boots still on, his lips cracked, a red sore hidden beneath stubble on his chin. A woman stirs, pulling a cloak around her shoulders. Her face is pale, but her eyes burn with a strange brightness. You have heard that look before. It is said to come before the fever, before the sweat, before the body begins to weaken. You do not speak. In this world, silence is safer than questions. If you ask about sores, people stare. If you speak of sin, priests blame you. If you mention disease, neighbors avoid you. So you keep your thoughts locked inside, as tightly as the shutters on the window. The itch grows stronger. You rub your leg against the straw, pretending it is nothing. You tell yourself it could be dirt, a scrape from yesterday's work, a bite from a rat in the dark. Yet deep inside you wonder. Desire brought you here last night, when you let your guard slip, when you touched skin that was not your own, when heat blurred judgment. Now, in the cool morning, you feel the price. A bell tolls in the distance. It calls the town to prayer. The sound rolls through the air, hollow and slow, as if the metal knows too much sorrow. The soldier stirs at the sound, groaning. He spits onto the floorboards, and the phlegm shines with streaks of red. He curses under his breath and pulls the blanket over his face. You rise carefully, your body stiff from the shared straw. Your joints ache from the cold, but your skin burns in strange places. You touch your neck, searching for heat. Your forehead is damp, not from fever yet, but from unease. Every sensation feels louder in your body, as if each breath is a message. The woman beside you watches. Her gaze lingers, not kindly, not cruelly, but knowingly. She pulls her hood low, as if to hide her own face. She does not ask your name. Names do not matter when people come and go, when one day alive can mean gone the next. You step outside. The air is sharp with the smell of wood smoke and dung. The ground is wet from dew, and mud clings to your boots. Villagers move quietly through the square. They do not smile. Their eyes dart, watching each other, measuring health in glances. A cough from one doorway makes two men turn away quickly. A woman carrying water shifts her scarf to hide her mouth. This is how mornings begin. With suspicion, with hidden sores, with the question no one speaks, who carries it next? You stretch your arms, feeling the pull of muscle, the stiffness of sleep. The itch on your thigh does not fade. You breathe deeply, trying to push it away. But the air carries more than smoke. It carries whispers. Last night you heard them. Talk of soldiers too weak to fight, of lovers found dead in the same bed, of priests warning that lust is the devil's arrow. And still people meet in the dark. Still hands reach for warmth. Still lips press together, knowing the risk. Desire does not die because of fear. It grows stronger in the shadows, hidden behind doors and curtains, carried through kisses that promise comfort, if only for a night. The church bell tolls again, louder, longer, calling you closer, even as your body resists. You wonder if prayer will help, if blessings will heal, or if they will only remind you of guilt, as the priest speaks of punishment and sin. For now, you stand in the square, the morning chill pressing into your skin. You are alive, awake, and uncertain. The day stretches ahead, heavy with the weight of desire's shadow. You cannot yet see where it will lead, but you feel it already, in the itch, in the whispers, in the silence between coughs. You linger in the square, uncertain whether to move toward the church or back toward the room you left behind. The air feels heavy, as though it carries not only the smoke of fires, but the weight of all that is unsaid. Around you, people hurry. They do not greet one another. They keep distance, but never enough distance. Narrow streets force shoulders to brush. Shared cups at wells pass lips from stranger to stranger. Even silence cannot protect. Your stomach grumbles. You think of bread, of stew, of ale. But before food, the body asks for certainty. Is the itch harmless? Or is it the first mark of something you cannot name aloud? You reach for your thigh again, pressing fingers gently against the sore. The skin is tender, as though bruised from within. It does not bleed. It does not open. But the ache is real, steady, and undeniable. You pull your cloak tight. You walk slowly toward the sound of the bell. Each step echoes in your chest. A man limps past you, leaning on a stick. His face is blotched, his lips cracked, his eyes swollen with fever. He mutters a prayer, lips moving so quickly they blur together. You watch him disappear into a doorway, and you wonder if tomorrow you will walk the same way, muttering the same prayers. The church rises before you. Its stone is dark with soot, its doors carved with saints who watch silently. People gather at the steps. Women pull children close, whispering warnings. Men shift uncomfortably, some coughing into their sleeves. The priest waits at the doorway, his robe heavy, his voice ready to thunder against sin. Yet even he cannot hide the marks that show faintly on his neck, hidden beneath cloth. His hands tremble when he lifts the cross. Inside, candles burn, filling the air with smoke and wax. The smell mixes with sweat and damp wool, pressing into your lungs. You find a place against the wall, leaning on cold stone. The priest speaks of chastity, of restraint, of God's anger at bodies joined outside holy union. Each word falls heavy, yet behind you, a young couple exchange glances, eyes filled with the same fire the priest condemns. Desire does not listen to sermons. Your mind drifts. You imagine the night before, the warmth of skin, the comfort of closeness in the dark. You remember the moment when thought gave way to need, when hands clasped and lips touched. The memory burns as much as the sore on your thigh. And yet, you do not regret. Even as fear creeps into your chest, even as you imagine fever rising, you know why you chose. Loneliness is heavier than risk. The sermon ends. People file out quietly, heads bowed. Outside, the morning has grown brighter. The square is busier now. Merchants shout of fish and bread, of cloth and herbs. A woman sells charms against disease, bits of bone and string tied together, promising protection. Another sells potions, bottles filled with cloudy liquid that smell of vinegar and smoke. People buy them eagerly, desperate for control, desperate to believe. You pass the stalls slowly. The itch on your thigh has not faded. You feel the weight of it with every step, a reminder stitched into your flesh. You pause by a well. Two men share a bucket of water, both drinking from the same wooden cup. One wipes his mouth with the back of his hand and passes it to the other. You see sores on his knuckles, red and swollen. The second man does not notice, or does not care. He drinks quickly, sighing as if quenched. The market noise surrounds you. It is almost comforting, almost ordinary. Yet beneath the clamor lies tension. Every cough draws eyes. Every stumble draws whispers. Behind laughter hides unease. The world looks normal, but you know it is not. Desire has carried sickness through these streets, through these voices, through these hands exchanging coins. You return to the inn by midday. The soldier from the straw mat still lies on his back, sweating through his clothes. The woman has gone, leaving only the imprint of her body on the bedding. You sit in silence, listening to the soldier's breathing, ragged and uneven. You think of your own breath. You count the beats of your heart. You tell yourself you are strong. You tell yourself you will last. But deep inside, you feel the uncertainty. You feel it in your thigh. You feel it in the memory of last night's warmth. You feel it in the priest's trembling hands. Desire has already chosen its path, and you are walking it, whether you will or not. As the light fades and the first day stretches into afternoon, you close your eyes again. Not to sleep, but to steady yourself. To listen to the sound of life around you. Footsteps, coughing, whispering, praying. You breathe slowly, letting the rhythm settle. The day is only beginning, and already, the shadow of lust has entered your blood. Your stomach reminds you of its emptiness. The ache twists like a rope, pulling tighter with every passing hour. You rise slowly from the straw, brushing off fragments of hay that cling to your cloak. The room is quieter than before. The soldier no longer groans, only breathes in shallow gasps. His chest rises and falls like a bellows struggling for air. You do not linger. Hunger drives you outward. The street greets you with the smell of cooking fires. Smoke curls from chimneys, drifting low in the damp morning air. A pot bubbles outside a tavern door, steam rising from its rim. The scent of cabbage and onion carries with it the faint tang of meat. Your mouth waters, but you hesitate. You know how food travels here. From one ladle to many mouths, from one cup to countless lips. Every sip, every bite is shared, whether you wish it or not. You step into the tavern. The light is dim, filtered through stained shutters. Wooden tables fill the space, scarred from years of knives and mugs slamming down. A serving woman moves between them, her sleeves rolled high, her hands red from the heat of the pot. She smiles, but her lips are cracked. You notice the faint trace of sores hidden at the corner of her mouth. You sit at a bench. A man beside you coughs into his sleeve, then wipes his hand on the table. His nails are dark, the skin between them raw. He greets you with a nod, as if nothing is wrong. You nod back, unsure whether politeness is safety or danger. The serving woman places a bowl before you. Steam rises, carrying the scent of barley and onion. The spoon is wooden, worn smooth by many mouths. You hold it carefully, as though its weight decides your fate. Around you, others eat quickly, slurping noisily, dipping bread into the thick broth. No one hesitates. Hunger is louder than fear. You take a cautious sip. The broth is thin but warm. It fills your mouth with salt and smoke, settling heavy in your stomach. For a moment, it comforts you. For a moment, you feel almost safe. But then your eyes catch movement. The man beside you dipping his bread, his fingers brushing the same broth, his sleeve dragging into the liquid. He eats with no thought, no pause. You think of the itch on your thigh, still burning faintly beneath cloth. You think of how easily one touch spreads to another, one mouth to another. You glance at the serving woman again. She wipes sweat from her brow, then stirs the pot with the same hand. You wonder how many bowls have carried her touch, how many mouths have followed after. The tavern fills with voices. Men speak of soldiers weakened by fevers, of brothels closing under church orders, of women found dead in beds beside their lovers. They laugh as they speak, though the laughter sounds thin, like wood snapping in the cold. You hear one man boast that he visited a brothel near the cathedral just last week. He describes painted faces, warm bodies, laughter behind shuttered doors. Another man warns him, sin carries punishment. But the first only shrugs. He says punishment is worth the night's embrace. You eat more slowly now. Each sip feels heavier, each swallow carrying not only warmth but risk. You tell yourself the heat of the pot will kill what clings to spoons and ladles. You tell yourself your body is strong enough to resist. Yet you know stories, soldiers sharing ale from the same cup, all struck with fever days later. The man beside you finishes his meal and wipes his mouth with his sleeve. He stands, leaving behind crumbs and wet spots on the table. You push your bowl away, appetite dulled by the sight. Hunger remains, but fear rises higher. The tavern no longer feels safe. You step outside once more. The air is cooler now, a breeze carrying the smell of dung from the stables. Children play in the mud, chasing each other with sticks, their laughter echoing. One falls, scraping his knee, and another helps him up without hesitation. You wonder how long innocence can survive in streets where sickness hides behind smiles. You move toward the market stalls, hoping for food untouched by too many hands. A woman sells apples, their skin bruised but still red. She polishes one on her apron, then hands it to a man with a smile. He bites into it, juice running down his chin. You see sores on his lips, raw and swollen, but he eats eagerly, careless of what spreads. You hesitate, coins heavy in your hand. The woman calls to you, waving another apple. Her voice is warm, her smile wide. But you notice the cracks in her fingers, the way she licks her lips too often, as though soothing pain. Desire, hunger, survival, they weave together here, inseparable. You must choose what risk to take, and whether the comfort of food is worth the shadow that follows. You take the apple, weighing it in your hand. Its skin is cool, its weight familiar. The woman's eyes watch you closely, waiting for the clink of coin in her palm. You hesitate. You see not only the fruit, but the trail that brought it here. Hands that picked it, baskets that carried it, lips that may have tasted before yours. Still, hunger presses forward. You drop a coin into her hand. She smiles, revealing teeth stained dark, gums swollen. You bite. The apple is soft, sweeter than expected, with a hint of sourness. Juice runs across your tongue, washing away the salt of broth. For a moment, you forget sores, coughs, whispers. For a moment, you are only human, feeding a body that asks for strength. Yet as you chew, you notice the woman coughing softly into her sleeve. She hides it well, but you see the strain in her eyes. You walk away quickly, apple in hand. The market buzzes with voices, bartering, shouting, laughing. A man sells loaves of bread from a cart, tearing them apart with bare hands to show their softness. Children snatch crumbs from the ground. A group of young women pass, their hair braided, their cheeks painted faintly with color. Men turn to look. The women smile, glancing back, their eyes filled with mischief and hunger of another kind. You know the danger in those smiles, yet you feel it stir inside you too. Desire thrives even in sickness. You finish the apple. The sweetness lingers, but so does unease. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, as everyone else does. The cloth feels damp, carrying sweat and dirt. You wonder how many times this gesture has passed sickness from body to body. Yet habit is stronger than thought. In this world, you do as others do, even when fear whispers. The tavern door opens behind you. A soldier stumbles out, his face pale, his lips cracked. He leans against the wall, retching. A thin stream spills into the mud. He groans, then straightens, wiping his mouth with the back of his hand. Only minutes later, he pulls a flask from his belt and drinks deeply, as though thirst is stronger than nausea. You watch him, knowing he will share that flask tonight, as soldiers always do. The market square grows busier. Smoke from cookfires thickens, carrying scents of roasted meat, garlic, and stale ale. A minstrel sings in the corner, his lute jangling weakly. People toss him coins, though his voice cracks with every verse. His throat looks swollen, but no one seems to care. They laugh, clap, and join his song. Joy lingers even in fear, perhaps because joy is the only cure they can afford. You find another stall, this one selling cheese wrapped in cloth. The vendor cuts thick slices, pressing them into hands that pay. You notice his fingers, swollen at the joints, nails yellowed. He wipes them on his apron, then touches the cheese again. The buyers do not pause. They chew eagerly, smacking their lips, wiping grease from chins. Your stomach twists. Hunger and fear wrestle within you, neither willing to yield. You step back, choosing distance instead of more food. You have eaten enough to survive today. More might only bring more risk. You remind yourself that survival is not only about filling the stomach, but about choosing carefully where to place your trust. And trust is scarce in these streets. You wander toward the edge of the square. There, a woman ladles ale into mugs. Men gather around her, their laughter loud, their eyes fixed on her body more than her wares. Her blouse is loose, her hair uncovered. She leans close as she serves, brushing hands, meeting eyes. Coins pass quickly. She drinks from the same jug, lips touching where theirs have touched. They cheer, as if her boldness proves safety. But you see the sweat at her brow, the redness along her throat. One man pulls her close, whispering something in her ear. She laughs, tilting her head back. The crowd roars with approval. You look away. Desire is louder than fear here, louder than coughs, louder than sores. Men will drink, touch, and follow wherever the night leads, even if the morning brings fever. You return slowly to the inn. The street narrows, shadows stretching long as the sun shifts. Your stomach is no longer empty, yet it is not settled either. Each bite feels like a gamble. Each sip carries a hidden weight. You think again of the itch on your thigh. It lingers, a quiet reminder that desire leaves its mark even after the night is gone. Back in the room, the soldier still lies on the straw, his breath shallow. His skin glistens with sweat, his lips murmuring words you cannot catch. You sit on the edge of the mat, listening. The apple's sweetness fades from your mouth. The broth's warmth fades from your stomach. What remains is the silence of waiting. Even eating, you realize, is not safety. Food is not simply food. It is hands, mouths, and closeness. It is the passing of cups, the touching of spoons, the brushing of fingers against bread. In this world, survival is not about hunger alone. It is about risk in every swallow, every bite, every sip. You close your eyes. The day stretches before you, uncertain and heavy. Hunger is quiet for now, but fear grows louder. And you know tomorrow you will eat again. You will choose again. and each choice will bind you tighter to the shadow of desire that follows every meal. You rise with the morning bell. The air is damp with the night's dew, and the cold clings to your hands as you rub your eyes awake. There is no time to linger. The village is stirring and work waits for no one. You step outside, your body heavy from sleep, and your feet already know the path to the fields. Today is not different from yesterday. The soil, the tools, the same aching bend of the back. Still, you notice every sound more sharply when hunger is not gnawing at your stomach. The chatter of sparrows in the hedges, the distant clop of hooves, the cough of your neighbor as he carries his hoe over his shoulder. Each small sound is woven into the fabric of the morning. You walk down the track, past cottages whose smoke rises in thin gray ribbons. Inside, you glimpse women stooping over pots, stirring what little porridge can be made. Children dart out into the yard, barefoot, carrying baskets. One of them trips, spilling turnips into the dirt. The mother sighs but bends to gather them up, brushing off the earth as though nothing had happened. Nothing can be wasted. By the time you reach the field, the sun is climbing. Its light touches the damp soil, turning droplets into small sparks. You grip the wooden handle of your hoe, rough against your palm. The work is simple: dig, lift, turn, press. Your body knows the rhythm better than your mind does. It is not thought that drives you but repetition. The bend of the spine, the weight of the tool, the sound of iron biting into the ground. Beside you, others are already laboring. A man in a patched tunic wipes sweat from his brow, though the air is still cool. An older woman works more slowly, her back stiff, her breath shallow. You notice her hands tremble as she grips her spade, but still she pushes it into the earth. No one speaks much at first. The morning hours belong to silence, broken only by birdsong and the scrape of metal against stone. As the sun rises higher, words begin to drift across the rows. Someone hums a low tune. Another mutters about the harvest being too thin. You hear a man curse softly when his tool strikes a root. Life leaks into the silence, one voice at a time. It feels less lonely then, though the work does not grow lighter. The rhythm of labor fills your body. Bend, lift, breathe. Bend, lift, breathe. The earth resists you, heavy and stubborn, but you press on. Sweat prickles your forehead, running down the side of your face. Your shirt clings to your back. You shift your stance, trying to ease the pressure in your spine, but the relief is brief. The soil demands its due. Now and again, you pause to straighten, stretching your back. You watch the line of workers, each bent in near identical posture. A shared struggle binds you all, though nothing is spoken of it. You know their aches because you feel them in your own bones. You know their fatigue because it mirrors yours. There is comfort in this unspoken unity, even as your muscles burn. The hours creep by. Shadows shorten. The sun stands over you, unrelenting. Someone calls for a break, and you drop your hoe with relief. You sit on a low stone wall, wiping your brow with the edge of your sleeve. A boy passes by with a jug of water, and you drink deeply, the liquid cool and rough with a hint of clay. It wets your lips, runs down your chin, and you do not care. Thirst is stronger than pride. Beside you, a man unwraps a cloth bundle. Inside are crusts of bread, hard and stale. He breaks a piece in half and offers it. You accept, chewing slowly. The bread grinds between your teeth, dry and tasteless, but it fills the emptiness in your stomach. A woman nearby nibbles on a small onion, the sharp scent cutting the air. Another licks her fingers clean of a smear of lard, savoring what little flavor she can draw out of it. After the break, the tools are lifted again. Work resumes. The sun climbs higher and fatigue sets in. Your shoulders ache with every swing. Blisters form on your hands, small and raw. Dirt cakes beneath your nails. You keep going, because stopping is not a choice. If the soil is not turned, if the weeds are not cleared, there will be nothing to eat when the colder months come. Survival is not a matter of preference. As the afternoon approaches, the pace slows. Even the strongest grow weary. A man groans as he straightens his back, leaning on his hoe for support. A woman stumbles, then steadies herself. The work presses on, though it feels heavier with each passing hour. Still, no one leaves. The field is patient, but hunger is not. The day stretches long, and your body is caught between the weight of labor and the pull of rest. Yet you press on, one swing at a time, your breath ragged, your muscles trembling. The earth holds no pity, but it does not lie. What you give it now will return to you, though not today. The hours pass, and the work does not end. Your body bends again and again, until you no longer count the motions. The fields stretch wide, the soil thick with roots, and each swing of your hoe chips away at the weight of the day. Around you, others labor in the same rhythm, shoulders moving like a tide, lifting, pressing, breathing. Yet even here, in the open fields beneath the sky, you notice the shadow that clings to the village. It is not war that takes the strongest men from these rows. Battles are fought far away, under banners you will never see. What weakens these bodies beside you is something quieter, closer, and more enduring. You see it in the way a young man coughs, though the air is clean. He hides the pain behind his sleeve, pretending it is nothing. You see it in another who works too quickly, as if outrunning a truth he carries in his blood. Their shoulders are strong, their arms steady with muscle, yet their eyes carry the dullness of those who do not last long. It is whispered that disease moves through the village not only by hunger or damp air, but by touch, by closeness, by the night's desires. Men who work the day in sweat and soil spend the evening seeking comfort where coin buys flesh. Taverns and fairs offer more than ale. Behind wooden shutters, under the smoke of tallow candles, bodies meet in hurried silence. For some, it is the only break from the endless fields. For others, it is an escape from loneliness. But the comfort carries a cost. What is taken in one night lingers for years, spreading silently. A wound from battle can be seen, bound, or stitched. This wound cannot. It lies hidden, moving quietly from one to another, leaving its mark on those who rise with the bell each morning. You remember the stories told by elders, that more men have withered from this unseen sickness than have fallen to the sword. That entire households have been emptied, not by raids, but by fevers, sores, and wasting that followed lust disguised as need. It is not spoken openly in the fields, yet everyone knows. Everyone has seen a strong man lean on his hoe 1 month and lie beneath the soil the next. The sun lowers and the light softens. The laborers' voices grow faint, swallowed by fatigue. Still, you think of those absences, faces once here, now gone. A man who laughed the loudest at harvest feasts, now remembered only by the patch of ground where he fell ill. Another who carried more weight than anyone, reduced to a shadow in his final weeks. Their strength, their pride, their labor, none of it shielded them from the sickness that spread without warning. You shift your grip on the handle, noticing the raw skin between your thumb and palm. Pain comes easily in work, but pain also comes in other forms, the kind that leaves no mark until it is too late. The fields cannot protect you from it. The village walls cannot keep it out. It moves as silently as breath. When the overseer finally calls an end, you drop your tool with a heavy sigh. Muscles burn, joints stiffen, yet relief washes over you. The day's toil is finished. You walk back along the track, shoulder to shoulder with others. The air cools, and the evening bell rings in the distance. Some peel away toward taverns, eager for drink, for warmth, for something to dull the ache of labor. You know what waits there: ale, song, and also the quiet trade of flesh that sustains itself on coin. It is not only strangers who seek it. Even men you know, who bent their backs beside you all day, will spend their night in shadowed corners, trading tomorrow's strength for tonight's desire. And so the circle continues. Work by day, hunger by noon, longing by night. The sickness spreads not from distant wars, but from the very places where men search for rest. It thrives in the need for touch, the hunger for closeness, the fleeting relief after endless toil. It takes more than hunger ever will, more than war can claim. You return home, the sky dimming above, stars faintly appearing. You lower yourself onto the straw bed, weary beyond words. Yet even as your eyes close, you know that tomorrow will repeat itself. The morning air feels different from the fields of yesterday. Today, the weight of work is less on your body and more on your eyes. For today is the market day, and that means faces, voices, and whispers. You step from your door, pulling your cloak close. The chill carries the smell of smoke from hearths, and beyond that, the faint scent of bread baking. Neighbors gather already along the narrow lane, baskets in hand, voices weaving into a low hum. The village is alive, yet beneath the greetings lies something quieter, judgment. As you walk, you notice how eyes linger a little too long. A woman at her doorway lowers her voice when you pass. Men by the well glance up, nod, then lean closer to each other. The sickness has made suspicion as common as the dirt underfoot. Everyone wonders who carries it. Everyone wonders who brought it into the village. Some believe it is punishment from God. Others whisper it comes from soldiers who pass through, from pilgrims who sleep in barns, from women who sell comfort on the edge of town. But few speak aloud of what they know, that it comes also from neighbors, from familiar hands and trusted faces. The disease is not carried only by strangers. At the market square, stalls lean against one another like crooked teeth. Baskets of onions, wheels of cheese, and salted fish fill the air with their mingled scents. Yet the market is more than trade. It is the theater of the community. Here, every gesture, every glance, every absence tells a story. You see a priest walking slowly through the crowd, his robes brushing against muddy ground. He raises his hand in blessing to a cluster of women, but his eyes dart elsewhere. Whispers follow him. He preaches chastity, yet is seen often after dark, near the brothel by the gate. People bow to him still, for he holds the keys to forgiveness, but the suspicion lingers. Nearby, 2 guards stand with spears in hand. They wear expressions meant to appear stern, yet they, too, have secrets. You remember hearing how one was seen slipping out of a tavern's back door with a girl, not his wife. He marches now with the look of authority, though the village knows his weakness. It is always the same. Those who warn most loudly of sin are often the ones who wander furthest into its shadows. And the sickness cares little for robes, weapons, or wealth. It spreads in silence, unbothered by rank. A neighbor greets you with a forced smile. His lips are pale, and you notice the faint tremor in his hands as he lifts his basket. He speaks of weather, of fields, of ordinary things. But his eyes shift toward the priest, toward the guards, toward the alleys where rumors live. His words are safe, but his silence says more. The market hums louder as coins exchange hands. A boy coughs near a stall of apples, and the sound draws glances sharp as knives. People step back, muttering prayers. The cough may be nothing, or it may be everything. In these times, no one knows. You move slowly through the stalls, feeling the tension in every step. This is not war, where danger is seen in banners and blades. This is suspicion woven into daily life, a web of doubt spun around every neighbor. Still, there is warmth here too. Children chase one another through the lanes, their laughter echoing against timber walls. Old women trade not only bread but small jokes, their voices soft as they share news. Life continues because it must. But beneath it all, the quiet shadow remains, linking pleasure to death, love to loss. As the church bell tolls noon, the crowd begins to thin. You feel the weight of the morning on your shoulders, not from lifting, not from hunger, but from eyes. Every glance was a question. Every word was half-spoken. You carry their suspicion as surely as your basket. Walking back toward your dwelling, you sense again the closeness of this life. Stone walls do not separate you from your neighbors. Secrets do not stay hidden for long. Yet desires also cannot be denied. Behind doors and shutters, the village seeks warmth in the same ways it condemns. The brothel thrives even as the pulpit condemns it. The guards indulge even as they patrol. The priest preaches purity even as he stumbles in the dark. And through it all, the sickness spreads, quiet, steady, patient. The path back from the market winds past the church. Its doors stand open, the smell of candle wax drifting into the air. Villagers pause at the threshold, some crossing themselves quickly before moving on, others stepping inside to kneel beneath the vaulted roof. You follow with your eyes and see them disappear into dimness, their whispers rising like smoke. Confession is offered today. One by one, people slip behind the wooden screen, murmuring sins through a narrow grate. They speak of envy, of hunger, of anger. Some confess what they dare not name in the square. Nights spent in arms not their own, coins traded for warmth in shadowed rooms. They hope that words spoken in secret will shield them from sickness already carried in their blood. You watch a woman leave the church, her veil drawn low. She clutches her beads tightly, lips moving in a prayer. Her husband waits outside, his hand gripping a staff. He nods to you, but his eyes are sharp, as though guarding something. Perhaps he fears that her secret is known. Perhaps he carries one of his own. Further along the lane, you see guards stopping a group of travelers. Pilgrims, weary from the road, sandals worn thin. The guards search their packs, asking questions in hard voices. Officially, they are looking for stolen goods, for weapons, for contraband. Unofficially, they are looking for sickness. The rumor is always the same. Strangers bring corruption, strangers bring disease. Yet everyone knows the truth. It is not only strangers. It is neighbors. It is kin. Still, fear focuses on the outsider. Easier to point a finger across the boundary than within your own walls. Easier to imagine that lust dwells elsewhere, rather than in your own bed. As you pass, the pilgrims are allowed through, their eyes cast downward. One coughs into his sleeve, and immediately the crowd nearby recoils. A woman pulls her child closer. A man mutters a prayer beneath his breath. The cough echoes louder than any sermon. The day wears on, and the market square grows quiet. You find yourself near the tavern, where voices are low but laughter still slips through shutters. You hear a song rise, then fall, and the sound of mugs clinking together. Inside, laborers and guards trade their wages for ale, their loneliness for brief company. Behind the tavern, the brothel stirs. Its doorway is plain, its windows shuttered, but everyone knows. Men step inside quickly, hoods low, looking left and right as if secrecy could hide them. They know the priest would condemn them, the neighbors would whisper, their wives would burn with shame. Yet they go all the same, for the hunger of flesh is stronger than fear. And there lies the irony that defines your world. The very places condemned in sermons are the places most visited after dark. The very sins most punished in public are the ones indulged in silence. The disease spreads not only because it is invisible, but because silence protects it. No one dares speak openly, for to accuse another is to risk exposing yourself. You think of the men who fell ill, their strength fading week by week. Few admitted how they came to be sick. Fewer still received sympathy. Most were buried quietly, their deaths explained as fevers, as weakness, as chance. Yet all knew the truth. Desire had claimed them. By evening, you return to your dwelling once more. The lane glows faintly with torchlight, smoke rising from hearths. Children sleep already, their small breaths steady in straw beds. In the distance, the church bell tolls again, calling the faithful to evening prayer. The sound carries over the roofs, soft and solemn. You sit by your doorway for a while, watching shadows pass. A priest walks by, his cloak pulled close, his pace quick. A guard follows a moment later, slipping into the darkness beyond. You know where they go. The whole village knows. Yet no one speaks. Silence is its own protection, even when silence feeds the plague. The night deepens. Voices quiet. The village settles, but rest does not come easily. Judgment lingers in the air like smoke. Suspicion hangs between neighbors like a curtain. Every cough is a question. Every absence is an answer. As you close your eyes, you realize again the truth whispered in every corner. More men have been lost to desire than to war. Armies march and battles rage. But here, in the quiet lanes of your village, in the hidden rooms of taverns and brothels, the true enemy spreads with every embrace. And tomorrow, the cycle will begin again. The road stretches ahead, uneven and damp from the night's rain. You step carefully over stones, your cloak heavy on your shoulders. Behind you, the village fades into smoke and silence. Ahead lies the uncertain path between towns, where fields give way to woods and woods to scattered huts. Travel in these times is never safe, yet it is often necessary. Pilgrims walk seeking shrines. Merchants carry goods for trade. Soldiers pass on orders. And you, like many, walk for reasons simpler: food, survival, hope of coin. Each mile brings not only distance, but risk. The air smells of wet earth, of leaves stirred by a breeze. Your boots squelch softly in the mud, and every sound is sharper here, away from the familiar hum of village voices. Birds cry from the branches. Somewhere far off, a dog barks. You keep walking. By noon you catch sight of others on the road. A group of merchants with carts, their wheels groaning in the ruts. A pair of pilgrims, their cloaks worn thin, staffs tapping on the ground. Each nods to you, but their eyes measure you too. Trust is scarce, yet distance cannot be kept long on these narrow paths. When the sky begins to dim, you find the inn. Its timber frame leans, its roof patched with straw, but the sight of smoke curling from its chimney brings relief. A place to rest, to eat, to wait for morning light. You push open the door and step inside. The warmth hits you first, thick, smoky air from the hearth. Then the sound, laughter, mugs striking wood, voices raised in song. Travelers fill the benches. Soldiers loosen their belts, pilgrims share bowls, merchants count coins. The air is close, filled with sweat, ale, and something else, desire. Inns are more than rest. They are crossroads of flesh. Strangers sit shoulder to shoulder, mugs passing from one hand to the next. Bread is torn and shared. Bowls pass lips not your own. In the corner, a woman leans against the wall, eyes scanning the crowd. She smiles faintly when a man glances back. Everyone knows why she is here. At night, the straw pallets in the loft fill quickly. You find yourself pressed between bodies, the smell of damp wool and unwashed skin thick around you. Someone coughs, and another shifts uneasily. A child whimpers in sleep. There is no distance here. Breath mingles with breath, warmth with warmth. What one carries, all soon share. Yet it is not only coughs and fevers that pass. Beneath the loft, in back rooms lit by single candles, other exchanges take place. Soldiers slip away with women, coins pressed into palms. Merchants follow, seeking warmth after long days on the road. Pilgrims, who swore vows of purity, stumble into temptation before dawn. No one speaks of it in the morning, but all know. The sickness thrives in such places. Not in great battles, but in shared bowls and shared beds, in the touches of strangers who will never see one another again. What begins on a pallet in a roadside and may travel with a pilgrim to a shrine, with a soldier to a camp, with a merchant to a market far away. Desire is carried farther by feet than swords ever could. As you lie awake, the sounds drift around you. A man snores heavily. A woman laughs softly in the shadows below. The rafters creak as footsteps cross them. Your own breath joins the rhythm of many. The inn is alive with its own pulse, steady and restless at once. You close your eyes, yet your mind stays alert. Tomorrow you will rise and walk again. Perhaps alongside those same pilgrims, perhaps among soldiers, perhaps with strangers who carry more than goods in their packs. Each step on the road spreads not only stories and songs, but also what clings invisibly to the body. In this world, travel is never clean. It is closeness, pressed together out of necessity. And where there is closeness, there is desire. And where there is desire, there is disease. The road waits for you at dawn. The rooster calls before the sun has fully risen. You wake stiff, the straw beneath you damp with the night's breath. Around you, others stir. Pilgrims rubbing their eyes, merchants strapping belts, soldiers adjusting boots. The inn empties slowly, each traveler stepping back onto the road, each carrying with them not just belongings, but the unseen shadows of the night. You shoulder your pack and follow. The air is crisp, your breath fogging before you. The road twists ahead, winding past hedgerows over wooden bridges through low valleys. The company of strangers grows familiar, for distance keeps you together. Soon you fall into step beside a pilgrim. His lips move silently in prayer, yet you see how his eyes dart toward the women walking ahead. Even vows bend when hunger lingers too long. By midday, the road swells with more pilgrims. A holy site lies not far, its relics said to heal the faithful. Dozens, then hundreds, press forward, filling the path. Robes brush against cloaks, sandals scrape beside boots. Voices rise in chants and songs, but beneath the piety runs another current. Hands brush too long, eyes linger too boldly, laughter rises in corners of the crowd. Holiness draws people together. Togetherness awakens other longings. At nightfall, the pilgrims camp in fields and barns. Fires glow in circles, shadows flicker on faces. Some gather to pray, others to drink, others to slip away into the dark. In the hush beyond the firelight, bodies press close, vows forgotten. The sickness finds no resistance here. Where there is closeness, it travels with ease, carried into morning along with hymns and blessings. On the third day, you reach the shrine. Its stone walls rise above the crowd, banners fluttering in the wind. Relics gleam inside, and pilgrims kneel, their lips against cold glass, their breath heavy in the holy air. The press of bodies is overwhelming. Shoulders crush against yours, the smell of sweat and incense thick, the air unclean. Here, too, sickness thrives. Fevers spread as quickly as prayers, carried by the same breath, the same kiss, the same longing for grace. When the crowd thins, you find yourself at a roadside tavern. It stands outside the shrine's gates, ready for those whose devotion has left them thirsty. Music spills through its doors, and the promise of more than ale waits inside. Pilgrims who prayed by day drink by night. Soldiers trade wages for women. Merchants seek company, claiming relief from the road. The brothel here thrives not in secrecy, but in plain sight. Painted signs hang boldly, doors left open, laughter echoing into the night. Travelers step in freely, cloaks loose, eyes alight. No priest speaks against it here, for even priests are seen among the shadows. The same men who kissed relics in daylight give their coins for pleasure by dark. Holiness and hunger live side by side, each feeding the other. And so the disease spreads further. A soldier from one country lies with a woman, then returns to his camp. A pilgrim embraces another, then continues to the next shrine. A merchant lingers too long, then carries his secret into a distant town. The road carries them all, their steps heavy with desire and with death. You lie awake again, listening to the night's sounds. A song drifts from the tavern. A laugh rises, then fades. A cough follows, sharp and lonely in the silence. You wonder who will carry it next. Perhaps the pilgrim whispering prayers in his sleep beside you. Perhaps the soldier resting against the wall. Perhaps you. The journey will continue at dawn. Roads wind endlessly, villages and towns linked like beads on a string. And with every step, every meal, every embrace, the shadow grows. More men will fall not by blade or arrow, but by the unseen hand of desire. The road does not only connect places. It connects sickness to body to body, lust to loss. And you walk it still, as countless others have before. It begins with a fever. Not sudden, not violent, but slow, like a coal glowing under skin. You feel it first in the heaviness of your limbs, the dull ache behind your eyes. At dawn, the chill clings to you even as the sun rises. By noon, sweat runs down your neck though the air is cool. By night, you shiver beneath blankets, caught between heat and cold. Around you, others suffer the same. One coughs into his sleeve, another groans as he shifts on the straw. Faces are pale, lips cracked, bodies restless. The sickness does not announce itself with grandeur. It slips quietly, patiently, and takes root. By the third day, sores appear. At first, small red marks on the thighs, the groin, the belly. They burn when touched, swell with heat, spread in clusters. The pain deepens. Men walk stiff-legged, unable to sit without wincing. Women shift uneasily, skirts damp with pus. The sickness is no longer a whisper. It is a scream, visible to all who dare to look. And so the healers are called. They come with leather satchels, jars of herbs, knives polished with oil. Their robes mark them as men of knowledge, yet their eyes betray doubt. For though they speak with confidence, they do not know. None truly know. They prescribe what they have been taught, what tradition whispers, what superstition insists. A young healer kneels beside a soldier, inspecting the sores along his thighs. He mixes vinegar with crushed garlic, smearing the paste thickly, promising it will draw out the poison. The soldier grits his teeth, the sting unbearable, but he nods, because to suffer under cure feels safer than to suffer alone. In another corner, an older healer heats an iron rod in the fire. He speaks of burning the sickness out, of cauterizing the flesh so that evil cannot linger. The patient screams as the rod touches skin, the smell of charred flesh filling the room. Others watch in silence, some horrified, some hopeful. Pain, they believe, must be the doorway to healing. Leeches are brought forth, their slick bodies writhing in glass jars. A priest blesses them, whispering prayers, before they are pressed to open sores. The creatures latch eagerly, sucking blood thick with fever. The healer declares it holy work, that sickness lies in humors unbalanced, and draining blood will restore harmony. Yet when the leeches fall away, the wounds are deeper, the weakness sharper. Not all cures are violent. Some turn to gentler remedies. Honey mixed with herbs is spread over ulcers, said to soothe and sweeten corrupted flesh. Bathing in heated wine is offered to cleanse the body. Potions brewed with sage, rosemary, or wormwood are forced upon patients, bitter and sharp, promising strength. But for every cure given, the sickness persists. Sores multiply, fever deepens, coughs grow harsher. Some rise each morning weaker than the last, until rising becomes impossible. The healers grow restless. Some turn to charms, tying amulets around wrists, placing blessed stones beneath pillows. Others whisper that the sickness is not of the body but of the soul, that sin has brought it forth, and only confession will cure it. Men crawl to churches, confessing lust, adultery, secret nights of pleasure. Priests listen gravely, granting absolution, but the sores do not fade. You watch as desperation grows. A young woman, unable to bear the agony, throws herself into the river at dawn. A merchant, ruined by illness, sells all he owns for a potion said to be brewed from dragon's blood, only to die the next week. A knight, once proud, lies trembling, his sword useless beside him, his groin aflame with ulcers. No armor protects against this enemy. In the midst of this suffering, whispers spread through villages and towns. Some say the sickness is punishment from God, sent to humble lustful men. Others say it is carried by witches, their curses wrapped in the bodies of women. Still others claim it is the work of foreign lands, a poison brought by strangers across seas. Fear twists truth into many shapes, each more dangerous than the last. The healers, caught between knowledge and ignorance, continue their work. They bleed, they burn, they bind, they pray. And still the fever burns on. At night, as you lie awake, the sounds of suffering echo around you, moans, prayers, soft sobbing. You wonder if tomorrow the fever will take you too. You wonder if the cure is worse than the sickness. You wonder how many more will fall, not by war, not by blade, but by the silent spread of lust turned deadly. The war of flesh against flesh is endless, and in this battle, no man truly wins. The sickness does not remain in private chambers. It spills into the streets, into markets, into the very air of towns and villages. Whispers become open fears. A man limps past, sores dark and oozing beneath his tunic, and mothers pull children indoors. A woman coughs at a well, and the line of villagers scatters, water left untouched in the bucket. The disease is no longer hidden in bodies. It has become a shadow cast over entire communities. At first, families attempt to keep their afflicted hidden. A son is locked in a loft, a daughter confined to the back of a hut, their groans muffled by thick walls. Parents fear not only for their children's lives, but also for the shame of discovery. For though everyone knows the sickness spreads quickly, it is still tied to whispers of sin, of lust, of forbidden encounters. To admit infection is to admit fault. But the body cannot remain hidden forever. The sores swell, the fever burns, the cries grow too loud. Neighbors hear. Rumors spread. Soon, the priest comes knocking, flanked by guards or church wardens. They demand the sick be shown. Doors creak open, and pale figures stumble into the light. Some beg for mercy. Others collapse at once, unable to stand. Quarantine follows. The infected are taken from their homes and moved to the edge of town. Sometimes into barns, sometimes into abandoned cottages, sometimes into crude huts built hastily from wood and mud. Guards are posted at night. Families weep as loved ones are dragged away, for they know few return. In these crude isolation camps, the line between care and punishment blurs. Healers come only sporadically, carrying their herbs and charms. Food is left at a distance. Priests arrive with incense and holy water, waving it through the air, as though smoke might carry salvation. Some pray over the sick, others simply leave them to God's will. Meanwhile, in the villages, suspicion festers. A merchant whispers that the sickness spread after new travelers passed through. A farmer insists witches have cursed the land. Eyes turn toward women who live alone, toward midwives, toward foreigners whose accents mark them as outsiders. The afflicted are not only feared, they are blamed. And once blamed, they are often cast aside. Public shaming becomes common. Men suspected of carrying the sickness are stripped and examined in the open square. Women accused of spreading it through sin are paraded with signs of disgrace, heads shaved, bodies lashed. The disease destroys not only flesh, but dignity. Even those who survive bear scars, not just on their skin, but on their names. Desperate cures multiply. Traveling quacks sell powders made of ground gemstones, potions steeped in animal blood, and oils scented with exotic spices. The rich pay fortunes, their coffers drained for bottles that promise relief. The poor, unable to buy such wonders, turn to folk remedies, boiling nettles, drinking urine, smearing dung on sores. Some swear by walking barefoot in the fields at dawn, letting dew cleanse the body. Others believe fasting until near death will drive the sickness out. And still the sickness spreads. The priests preach harder. From pulpits they thunder that lust is the root of this plague. They warn husbands to avoid their wives, wives to avoid their husbands, all to avoid temptation. Yet behind monastery walls, scandals unfold. Monks caught sneaking out at night, priests whispering with women in dark corners. The disease cares little for vows or vestments. It finds flesh wherever it may. As weeks pass, the village grows quieter. Streets once filled with chatter now echo with silence. Houses are shuttered. Bells toll more often, each ring announcing another lost soul. The graveyard swells with fresh mounds, crosses hastily erected. Some are marked with names, others left blank. There are too many to count, too many to record. The healers themselves begin to fall ill. A respected apothecary collapses while preparing a salve. A barber surgeon, known for his steady hand, dies within days of lancing a patient's sores. Their apprentices take their places, less skilled but no less determined, repeating the same desperate measures. In the midst of despair, a kind of numbness settles. Villagers stop asking who is next. They stop pretending cures will work. Instead, they whisper only this: better to die by war than by this slow rot. At least war gives honor, a name, a story. Disease strips all that away, leaving only shame and decay. One evening, you sit near the edge of the isolation huts. A young man no older than 20 lies before you, his face drenched with sweat, his hands trembling. He speaks in a hoarse voice. I thought I was strong. I fought in battles. I saw men cut open before my eyes. Yet this, he breaks off, coughing blood. This is worse. A sword ends quickly. This lingers. It makes a man less than himself before it kills him. His words echo the truth all have come to know. This sickness is not swift like war. It is slow, creeping, relentless. It does not honor courage or skill. It does not care for prayer or coin. It simply takes, and keeps taking. By nightfall, the young man is still. His body is carried outside, laid upon a cart with others, and wheeled toward the graveyard. The torches flicker, casting long shadows across the huts. Tomorrow, more will join him. And so, disease continues its march, as silent and deadly as any army, claiming men not by the sword but by the betrayal of their own bodies. The bells toll again, heavy and slow, marking another day of fear. You walk through the village square and see them gathered, priests in black robes, lords in bright cloaks, healers with belts heavy with tools. They stand apart, each claiming the right to speak, each convinced they hold the answer. Yet the disease listens to none of them. The priest steps forward first. His voice carries across the square, sharp and certain. He declares the sickness a punishment from God. He says the sores are marks of sin, the fever a cleansing fire. He points at the people, warning them to repent, to fast, to kneel at the altar. Desire has brought this plague, he insists, and only purity will end it. His words strike fear, but also guilt. Husbands glance at wives, wives glance at husbands, each wondering whose weakness has invited God's wrath. When the priest finishes, the Lord speaks. His voice is deeper, more commanding. He does not speak of God, but of order. He says the sickness spreads because people disobey. They gather too freely, they hide their sick, they whisper against authority. He commands stricter rules. No taverns open after dark, no travel without permission, no gatherings larger than 10. Guards patrol with sharper eyes, watching not just for sickness, but for disobedience. Where the priest rules souls, the Lord rules bodies. Then the physician steps forward. He is dressed not in robes or armor, but in layers of cloth, gloves covering his hands, a mask shaped like a bird's beak hiding his face. Inside the beak are herbs, rosemary, mint, lavender, meant to purify the air. He does not speak of sin or order. He speaks of humors, of balance, of blood and bile. He claims the sickness comes from imbalances inside the body, worsened by lust and gluttony. His cure is bleeding, purging, lancing sores. He demands the sick be brought to him, promising that with enough time and enough gold, he can restore them. The people listen, torn. Each voice carries weight, yet none brings peace. The priest offers salvation, but only through shame. The Lord offers safety, but only through chains. The physician offers health, but only for coin. And still neighbors fall, one after another. Conflict brews not only between authority and the people, but between the authorities themselves. The priest accuses the physician of pride, of trusting in herbs more than God. The Lord accuses the priest of spreading panic with his sermons, undermining order. The physician accuses the Lord of cruelty, of sending the sick into isolation with no care. They argue in public, their words sharp, their gestures wild. The people watch, hope fading. Behind closed doors, hypocrisy blooms. The priest who thunders against lust visits a widow at night. The Lord who forbids gatherings hosts feasts in his manor, where wine and flesh flow freely. The physician who warns of balance accepts bribes to treat the wealthy first, leaving the poor to rot. Their rules bind others, but not themselves. You see how the disease uses this conflict. While priest, lord, and physician argue, it slips between homes, across fields, into camps. It does not pause for sermons, decrees, or diagnoses. It thrives in the cracks of their control, laughing at their pride. The people begin to murmur. Some say the priest is right, that the sickness is God's judgment. They walk barefoot to shrines, scourging their backs until blood runs, hoping suffering will cleanse them. Others whisper that the Lord is right, that only strict order can save them. They spy on neighbors, report friends, build walls of fear. Still others cling to the physician, offering their last coins for powders and oils, believing silver stronger than prayer or law. Division spreads as quickly as fever. Families argue at tables, neighbors fight in streets, towns split between priest, lord, and healer. Unity crumbles, and the disease, unchallenged, grows. One evening, you pass the church and hear the priest's voice rising inside. He is not preaching but shouting at the Lord, who stands defiant in the aisle. Their words echo, each blaming the other for the growing graves. A torch sputters outside, smoke curling into the night. The quarrel inside is fierce, but the graveyard outside is silent, filled with the only truth that matters. Death does not care who wins. The authorities cling to their power, yet with each death, their grip weakens. The people begin to see through them, to recognize that none can halt what moves unseen. The priest's sermons grow louder, the Lord's decrees harsher, the physician's fees higher. These are not signs of strength, but of desperation. You realize that authority itself is faltering. The sickness has exposed it for what it is, fragile, self-serving, blind. And as their voices clash, the night deepens, the bells toll again, and more bodies are carried to rest. The disease has no ruler but itself. The weeks drag on, and the conflict between those in power sharpens like a blade. At first it was only words, but now it spills into actions. The priest orders the church bells to toll for every death, hoping the sound will frighten sinners into confession. The Lord, angered by the constant ringing, commands the bell ropes cut. At night, villagers creep into the tower to pull them again, torn between loyalty to faith and fear of punishment. The physician, meanwhile, grows bolder. He sets up a tent outside the church, offering his treatments in plain view. Patients line up, some desperate, some skeptical, many clutching their last coins. He bleeds them, purges them, burns their sores with hot irons. The screams carry into the square, a grim chorus that drowns out both priest and lord. Yet when one or two emerge walking, the crowd believes, even if 10 do not. The three powers pull the people in different directions. One tells them to fast, another to obey, another to pay. And in their tug of war, the villagers are stretched thin. Families break apart, one half loyal to the priest, another to the Lord, another to the healer. Trust shatters, and suspicion seeps into daily life. The priest accuses the physician of sorcery, whispering that his cures are more packed than science. Some villagers nod, muttering about witchcraft. The Lord, seeing opportunity, fans the rumor. If the healer loses credibility, the people will turn back to his rule. But the physician fights back, calling the priest a fraud, a hypocrite who damns lust while indulging in it. He names the Lord a coward who hides behind guards while others suffer. The people hear all of this, and their doubts deepen. The sickness, meanwhile, spreads unchecked. It moves quietly, slipping into houses where no priest has blessed, where no guard has patrolled, where no physician has treated. By the time arguments echo in the square, 3 more homes fall silent, 3 more families lose sons, 3 more bodies are laid into shallow earth. In time, anger flares into defiance. Villagers storm the church, demanding the priest show them proof of his holiness. They demand miracles, demand cures, demand answers. He offers only prayers and condemnation. Stones fly, windows shatter, and the once revered building trembles under the rage of its flock. The Lord fares no better. His guards attempt to enforce his curfews, but hunger pushes villagers into the night. Bread must be bought, water fetched, fields tended. To be told otherwise feels less like safety and more like suffocation. When guards lash out, crowds rise against them. Torches appear, doors are forced, tax records burned. The manor that once stood tall becomes a fortress under siege, its noble family peering nervously from narrow windows. The physician clings to his craft, but his tent grows emptier. Too many have died under his knife. Too many have bled until they fainted, never to rise. The wealthy still come, for they have coin to spare, but the poor turn away. They whisper of quackery, of false promises, of greed. Stones strike his tent at night, and though he repairs the canvas each morning, fewer and fewer return. Each authority figure, once certain of control, finds themselves shrinking into fear. The priest locks the church doors at night, afraid of his own flock. The Lord doubles the guard at his manor, though even his men cough and stumble, their strength fading. The physician dreams of leaving, of vanishing to a new town, but he knows the disease has marked him too. The people, abandoned in truth though still watched in name, begin to take matters into their own hands. They form small groups, neighbors helping neighbors, trading food quietly, tending the sick as best they can. They look less to the altar, the throne, or the healer's tent, and more to each other. In whispered voices, they admit the truth. No priest, no lord, no physician can save them. Only survival, shared and stubborn, will carry them through. Still, none of the 3 will surrender their claim. The priest continues his sermons, though fewer listen. The Lord continues his decrees, though fewer obey. The physician continues his treatments, though fewer pay. Each clings to power, as if by doing so they can hold back the shadow. Yet all their efforts amount to nothing more than sand slipping through fingers. One evening, you pass the square and see them standing apart once more. The priest, cloaked in black, the Lord in his faded finery, the physician in his beaked mask. They speak, not to the people, but to each other. Their voices are low, tired, stripped of thunder. For the first time, you hear not certainty but doubt. They know the truth, though they will never speak it aloud. They are powerless. The disease bows to no authority. And as the bells toll again, heavy in the dusk, you realize the sound no longer belongs to church, lord, or healer. It belongs to death itself, ringing louder than any human voice. You step into the streets at dawn, and at first glance, it seems the world has not changed. The sun rises, chickens cluck, carts creak over cobblestones. Yet the closer you look, the clearer the truth becomes. This town is rotting from within. Doors are shut, not with ordinary latches, but with boards nailed across. Families inside whisper through cracks, too fearful to open even for neighbors. Wells, once lively places of chatter, stand quiet. Buckets hang unused, their ropes stiff with age, for no one dares gather where coughs once echoed. The very air feels heavy. Smoke from too many hearths, from too many burning rags, clings to your skin. Healers say fire purifies, so people burn their clothes, their bedding, even their own furniture. Yet the smell lingers. Charred cloth mixed with the sour stench of sickness that creeps beneath every door. Corpses, too many to bury quickly, alter the landscape. Graves once dug carefully now gape shallow, earth piled carelessly over swollen bodies. In some places, pits are filled by the dozen, lime dust scattered to mask the odor. The ground itself seems sick, unable to hold the weight of so much death. Rivers, once clear, grow fouled. Carcasses of animals float downstream. Pigs, goats, even dogs slain for fear they carried contagion. Children no longer splash along the banks. Fishermen sit idle, boats tied, for who would eat from waters carrying such filth? Hunger spreads alongside fever, thin faces staring at empty bowls. Markets shrink. Stalls close one by one. Where once women called out prices for bread and cheese, now silence reigns. A few vendors remain, but their goods are scarce, their eyes wary. They stand far back from customers, tossing loaves instead of passing them by hand, coins dropped into buckets filled with vinegar to cleanse them. The town's very rhythm falters. Bells toll too often, not for prayer but for death. The clang is no longer sacred. It is a constant reminder that another neighbor is gone. Even the animals sense it. Horses stamp nervously, dogs howl at night, cats vanish into fields. You walk past a street where entire houses stand empty. Curtains flutter in broken windows, doors swing ajar. The families inside are gone, dead, fled, or locked away elsewhere. What remains is not a home but a husk, a shell abandoned to the elements. Rats scurry boldly across doorsteps, their numbers swelling as human presence fades. At night, the town transforms into something almost unrecognizable. Streets that once glowed with candlelight now drown in darkness. Few dare to light lamps, fearing attention, fearing thieves, fearing even the eyes of neighbors. The silence is broken only by coughing in the distance, or by the slow creak of a cart carrying bodies to the edge of town. Yet beneath this visible decay lies a deeper rot, the unseen hand of desire that set it all in motion. For the whispers persist, of soldiers who carried the sickness from brothels, of merchants who lingered too long with traveling companions, of priests who indulged in secret and passed the curse onward. Lust lit the spark, and now the whole town smolders. The environment itself begins to mirror the human body. Streets pocked with filth resemble sores. The stench that hangs over alleys resembles the fevered breath of the dying. The walls of homes, cracked and sagging, echo the weakness of limbs that can no longer bear weight. As bodies waste away, so too does the town. Still, life claws forward. A baker rises each morning, though he sells only a handful of loaves. A blacksmith hammers iron, though no one comes to collect the tools. Children play in hidden corners, their laughter thin but stubborn, a small rebellion against despair. Yet even this resilience feels fragile, like a candle guttering in the wind. You realize the disaster is not sudden, like fire or flood. It is slow, creeping, relentless. It reshapes the environment day by day, until what was once a thriving town becomes little more than a graveyard with walls. And you wonder, how many more towns lie ahead, rotting in silence, waiting to be remembered not for their markets or churches, but for the smell of death that clung to their stones? When the sickness tightens its grip, the disaster spreads beyond town walls. The countryside, once a patchwork of fields and villages, begins to unravel. You ride along a road that should be busy with carts and travelers, but now it lies deserted, weeds sprouting between its stones. Farms sit silent. Fields of barley grow wild, untended since the ploughman fell ill. Grain blackens in the rain, stalks heavy but rotting, uncut. Orchards sag with fruit that no one gathers, apples dropping to the earth, bruised and crawling with insects. The air should carry the sound of scythes and laughter, yet only crows remain, feasting where farmers once toiled. Villages seem frozen mid-breath. Doors left open, fires burned low. A wooden bucket overturned in the mud, a spinning wheel half-threaded, a cradle empty by the hearth. The silence presses heavier than the sickness itself, as though time has stopped. And in a way, it has, interrupted by the sudden hand of death. Rivers, those lifelines of trade, slow with neglect. Bridges collapse without repair. Ferrymen vanish from their posts. The great barges carrying wool and salt no longer pass. Ports that once swarmed with sailors now echo with gulls circling over idle masts. Goods rot in warehouses, spices and cloth forgotten, because there are no healthy hands left to claim them. The forests, too, change their tone. Paths vanish beneath undergrowth. Hunters are absent, and deer wander boldly into fields. Wolves, once pushed back, creep closer, their howls mingling with the laments of widows. Nature, unshackled by human presence, seems to reclaim the land, but not with joy, with a kind of quiet, relentless inevitability. In monasteries and abbeys scattered across the countryside, gardens of herbs stand overgrown. Monks who once bent to weed and harvest lie in cloisters, their chants silenced. Medicinal plants shrivel in the absence of care, leaving behind the bitter irony of healing untended just as the world cries out for cures. Trade routes collapse like veins cut from a body. Caravans no longer venture across mountain passes, fearing not only thieves but the pestilence carried in every handshake. Cities that once flourished on commerce now choke on scarcity. Bread riots break out, men and women fighting over crumbs as if they were gold. Even the weather seems harsher, though perhaps it is only perception. A summer storm that once brought relief now destroys unharvested fields. A winter frost that once strengthened resolve now starves villages. Every gust of wind carries dread, for who knows if it blows sickness from one town to another. Across the land, bells toll endlessly, so much that their sound becomes part of the natural environment, like wind in the trees, like water in the streams. Children no longer ask what the bells mean. They already know. Animals mirror the devastation. Horses, unshod and unbridled, run wild. Oxen die in their stalls, their bodies left to stiffen where they fell. Flocks scatter across the hills, unattended, bleeding into the emptiness. The old balance between human and beast falters, the land itself slipping toward disorder. Roadside shrines and crosses multiply, each marking the spot where a cart overturned carrying bodies, or where a village begged for mercy. Flowers laid at their bases wither faster than they can be replaced, another sign of human absence. And underneath it all lies the unspoken truth. This collapse was not born of storm or famine alone. It was carried in desire. It was whispered in crowded taverns, traded in darkened rooms, exchanged in hurried embraces. The land suffers because the bodies that once tilled, built, and prayed were undone by hunger of another kind. Lust seeded the ground with sickness, and the environment itself bears its harvest. The disaster is not one of spectacle but of erosion. Not a single cataclysm, but 1,000 tiny absences that hollow out the world, an untended field, an unmended bridge, an unlit hearth. The landscape grows sick not because the earth itself is poisoned, but because its caretakers have vanished. By the time travelers from other regions arrive, they find not bustling markets or strong castles, but shells of life. Roads quiet, fields overgrown, houses abandoned. What once was a land of order becomes a scatter of ruins stitched together by silence. And you, walking through it all, cannot help but wonder. If a whole world can dissolve in this way, what hope remains for any human order? What good are crowns, banners, and prayers when the soil itself begins to forget the shape of man? The years pass, and somehow you are still here. Not whole, not untouched, but alive. Your body carries its own chronicle now, etched in scars and shadows. Fingers stiff from old sores, bones that ache when the wind turns cold. Your reflection in a basin startles you. Hair thinned, face hollow, eyes heavy with all they've seen. Yet the heart inside your chest beats on, stubborn as ever. You remember the nights when fever raged through your veins, when every breath felt like drowning. The sores that burned your skin and shamed your spirit. The whispers that clung to you, sinner, cursed, marked. And yet you endured. Others fell, neighbors, lovers, strangers met on the road, while you somehow rose again. Survival feels less like triumph and more like a strange, unsought burden. Food tastes different now. Bread, once taken for granted, feels sacred on your tongue. Water from a stream seems like a miracle. Even the plainest broth warms your chest in ways it never did before. Life has shrunk to simple essentials, but those essentials gleam like treasure. You learn to measure joy not in abundance, but in small mercies. Yet desire still stirs within you. That is the cruelest revelation. Even after all the death, the warnings, the sermons, the pain, you still long. For touch, for closeness, for the warmth of another body beside your own. You know the risks better than anyone. You have seen graves dug too soon. But the hunger remains, soft as a whisper, sharp as a knife. You wonder if this is the true curse. Not the sickness itself, but the inescapable yearning that makes you risk it again. Lust is not silenced by death. If anything, it grows louder in its shadow. Each embrace is both a memory of danger and a protest against loneliness. You reflect on the paradox. Desire creates life. Every child born, every family continued, every song sung in joy is its offspring. But desire also carries death, hidden in the body, creeping silently from one to another. It is the same flame that warms and burns, that builds and destroys. How can the world be ordered when the very instinct to live also plants the seeds of ruin? Priests called it sin, lords called it weakness, physicians called it humors. But living through it, you know better. It is simply human. To be human is to want, and to want is to risk. There is no escape, only choices. To turn away and starve in isolation, or to step toward the fire and hope it spares you this time. Your memories are crowded with faces. The first girl whose laughter filled your ears like music, gone before she saw 20 summers. The soldier who shared your bread on the march, coughing blood into his hands. The priest who laid hands in blessing, yet could not lay down his own secret cravings. They are ghosts that walk beside you, their absence shaping every step you take. And yet, you cannot deny the moments when desire was also salvation. A hand held in the dark when the world felt unbearable. A kiss stolen in secret, reminding you that you were alive, not merely surviving. Even the risk carried its own strange kind of grace, the knowledge that for one instant, life was burning bright. Now, in the quiet of survival, you weigh it all. Was it worth it? The graves, the fevers, the scars? You search yourself for bitterness, but what you find is something closer to acceptance. You did not choose this dance between longing and loss. It was given to you, as it is given to all. The only choice was whether to keep moving, one trembling step at a time. And so, scarred but unbroken, you walk forward. Each dawn feels borrowed, each night a fragile reprieve. You know the sickness still lingers in the world, waiting in beds, in bodies, in silences. You know you may yet fall, as so many others have. But for now you breathe. You endure. You remain. The village you walk through is quieter now. Houses stand empty, their doors sagging, their hearths cold. Grass creeps where children once played. In the churchyard, crosses lean in uneven rows, each marking a life cut short. You pause, looking at them not with fear, but with a weary familiarity. These markers are not strangers. They are the rhythm of life you have come to know. Once war was the great terror. Men spoke of battles as if they decided the fate of kingdoms. But you have lived long enough to see a different truth. More men died in beds than on battlefields. More were taken by embraces than by swords. Desire claimed soldiers before their blades could, filling camps with coughs and fevers, sending armies limping home. Kings wrote treaties, lords swore oaths, priests thundered sermons, but none of them could stop the spread of lust's hidden weapon. You remember the words of priests. This is God's punishment. But you no longer believe in such neat judgments. Were the children punished? The women forced to share beds they did not choose? The men who sought comfort after long days of labor? No, punishment is too simple. What you saw was not wrath, but frailty. The body craves, and craving brings both joy and danger. Sometimes you wonder if the disease itself was a kind of teacher. It stripped away illusions of control. Lords with gold and peasants with nothing lay side by side in sickness. Priests who thundered against sin still carried sores beneath their robes. Even physicians, with their jars of herbs and leeches, could not escape the fevers they tried to cure. All the walls of rank and power crumbled when the body broke. And yet desire endured. That is the lesson that unsettles you most. No matter how many died, the pull never ended. Weddings were still celebrated, lovers still met in barns and alleys, prostitutes still stood beneath painted signs. Even when bodies rotted, the living sought one another. It was as if the hunger for closeness was stronger than fear itself. Now, as you stand in the twilight of your own life, you feel this paradox resting in your bones. You survived, yes, but survival did not mean freedom from risk. Every choice to love, to touch, to seek warmth was a gamble. Sometimes you won. Sometimes others did not. And yet, would life have been worth living without those risks? Without the memory of touch, of laughter, of closeness? The scars on your skin remind you of what was lost, but the beating of your heart reminds you of what was gained. You lived through a time when lust killed more than war, when whispers of desire carried death across kingdoms. And yet, you also lived through moments when desire made the darkness bearable. You cannot tell whether history will remember this. Perhaps chronicles will record battles, not brothels. Perhaps monks will write of kings, not of the thousands who died quietly from love's shadow. But you carry the truth in your body, that lust was both weapon and balm, curse and blessing. In the evenings, when the air cools and the world falls still, you sit by your door and listen. The village is quieter than it once was, but you still hear it. The faint murmur of laughter, the soft hush of footsteps, the rustle of straw in hidden corners. Even now, with all that has passed, desire moves through the night. It is not gone. It never will be. Your reckoning is simple, though it took a lifetime to reach. Desire is both life and death. To live is to want, and to want is to risk. You did not escape the shadow. It touched you, scarred you, reshaped you, but you endured it. And in enduring, you found something close to peace. The world will change. New fevers will rise, new wars will come, new voices will preach fear or promise safety. But always, beneath it all, there will be the same quiet pull, the same unquenchable hunger that ties one body to another. You have seen what it can destroy, and you have seen what it can preserve. And so, scarred but breathing, you accept it for what it is, the most dangerous and the most necessary part of being human. You have walked through the shadows of the Middle Ages, where desire was never simple. More men were carried to their graves by passion than by sword. Armies fell not on battlefields, but in tents filled with fever. Villages emptied not by raids, but by whispers passed in the dark. Lust, unchecked and unseen, proved deadlier than arrows or steel. It seeped through families, crept across borders, and left its mark on every body it touched. And yet, people could not turn away. For in the very same act that spread death, they found comfort, warmth, and the spark of life itself. The lesson is not confined to medieval streets. It lingers in your own time, though medicines soften the edge. Desire still pulls at every heart. To crave touch is human. To risk closeness is unavoidable. Fear may warn you, priests may condemn you, physicians may advise you, but the yearning remains. Lust is not enemy or ally. It is a force like fire. Fire can burn a house, or it can light the hearth. In the Middle Ages, it burned fiercely, and many lives were lost in its flames. But the same flame lit marriages, carried songs, and cradled children. That paradox remains eternal. The danger and the beauty are bound together. So now, Close your eyes one last time. Picture the medieval night. A narrow street, the air thick with wood smoke and whispers. Torches flicker on the church wall, while only steps away, shadows slip into brothels. In the houses beyond, fevers smolder in hidden beds, and bells toll for the dead. Yet beneath the same stars, lovers still lean toward one another, drawn by something older than fear. Desire moves through the darkness like breath itself, dangerous, necessary, unending. And as you drift to sleep, remember, lust has always been both life and death, and it always will be.